Hello, everyone. Today is July 12th, and we are here today live with John Colon from FIYV. I am Marianne Francis from Transforming Hearts PLLC, and we have, I'm so interested and excited to have this conversation with John today. So we are here live on Facebook and on Instagram as well. So please feel free to share if you like, ask questions in the comments. So that way we can, ask John as many questions as if you like. But we have like this segment, and me and John have been talking about this for quite some time now. Um, so I'm like super excited to have you on. So John, welcome to the live today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
It's been a long time coming.
it has been. It has been. But you know what? I think you and I are people who are kind of believers in timing, and sometimes things may not be the right time to do something, and then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, yes, let's get this going. This is the time. Do you kind of feel that way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, but I don't know if I was necessarily ready then. So, yes, timing is very important for sure.
Yes. So, I think I'm just usually when I start off, I usually have like this big intro for people, and we're kind of going off of the intro and the background information. But for me, I think what I want to do differently today is really have us just get it right into it and get started on this, because I really believe like your business and what you have is an integral part of the conversation itself, so that way it can better explain to people exactly what this movement is about. Again, like, this is a movement that we've talked about, is not just a business, right? So I want people to really understand the concept and understand why I would even say, hey, let's do this live together, why I feel like it would be important for other people to kind of see that, especially coming off of a talk therapy and wellness retreat. Other people might be like, Marianne, what's the tie-in? But your company very much so ties into a lot of the things that I do in a different level, and I love it. So we'll get into it. Again, audience, feel free to ask questions if you'd like, join in on the conversation, because that's very much what today is going to be about. So I'm going to just start off. John, FIYV, what is that?
Well, I mean, it stands for faith in your vision. And I think, cliche as it sounds, it is a lifestyle. It is a way of life. It is how I live my life. Faith is a real important thing to me. Having visions is as well. I think visions lead to growth, and I think this is a universal message that can sort of resonate with any and everyone, regardless of age, sex, you know, beliefs, whatever it may be. I think it's just a universal message that everyone could benefit from.
I love that. I love that. Where did you get the idea for it? Because I really love how you, like, I know how you are great at kind of branding and making kind of those things. So I love the acronym, and to have that kind of fall into place. Where did you get the idea for FIYV?
Well, it's been a long time coming. Like before I even got to FIYV, I mean, I've tried three, four other brands, and people who know me know, I'm a super creative person. Um, but yeah, I've tried a couple different things, never worked out. And at the time, I was working third shift corrections, and I would always just have these random thoughts. Like I'd be in this half day's sleep, and I'd wake up and I'd write something down, or I'd wake up and I'd type it in my phone, and I'd spend the whole night at work just kind of thinking about it. And a lot of ideas came to me like that. But I do remember, I don't know the specifics with the dream, but it was just like I remember waking up prior to work. It was about 10:30 at night, and I wrote down "Faith in Your Vision." And the whole time, that whole night at work, I was just writing it over, writing it over, writing it over. And I'm like, damn, why did this come to me? Like, what is this? And then I remember like writing every word, capitalizing the beginning
Mm-hmm.
letters. And so I just saw FIYV like sticking out, just kind of blew up to me. And I'm like, five. So I start like trying to figure out how do you pronounce it. Then I start
Mm-hmm.
doing research, like, is there anything, out there with five or how it's spelled? And it was just a great play on, words, the number,
Mm-hmm.
like it just all came together like that, honestly. And it was from there, it was just like, there was no turning back.
Yeah, I love it. And I love like how you have that play on word. And again, like you're so good with that. You helped me out even with mine with unapologetically when I was trying to really understand that concept. And for everybody out there, like it is a registered trademark. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the important part of like researching to see if anybody else had this idea or if it's trademarked because that is and it's such an important part of business as well when you're branding and you have your stuff out there, and that's something that I didn't know prior to, hence part of the reason for my name change and the branding rebranding of even my own company, but that's something that you already knew and you're just like, I have faith in this vision
Right.
and I have to make sure that no one else has a stamp on this.
Yeah, so that's what I spent the first couple months on, just sort of researching,
Mhm.
Googling, going through the trademark searches. And I mean, even to the point of just trying to see if anything would come up with
Mm,
five and how I spelled it, and nothing. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is the one. And like I said, the message alone, like, you know, I realized it was a lifestyle that I was already living prior to even, everything coming together. And it's
mhm.
something that I still continue to live by. And yeah, but it is important
Yeah.
researching. The business side of it. It can get crazy. So
It definitely, definitely can. So, talk to us about like the movement itself and its purpose. Now, you talked about it's almost like a universal message that anybody can really have. Like everybody can have faith in their vision. Tell us just a little bit more, or give us an example of what that truly means.
um, well, I mean, the best example I could give is example of me and my family,
Mhm.
my situation with my wife. But we got married 3 years ago, and um, we always sort of entertained the idea of leaving the state.
Mhm.
For those who don't know, I was a correction officer for Connecticut, 8 years in when I left my career. One of the scariest moves, but I had faith, that things were going to work out how we envisioned. And like I said, well, prior to the camera coming on, we were talking, and people who don't know my wife Jennifer, she can be conservative, somewhat safe at times. But this was something that we both just saw, and we were like, we're gonna make this move. We're gonna move down south. So left my career. We sold our house. Um, moved in with my in-laws.
Mhm.
Um,
And with two kids, mind you, they have two
with
kids.
with two kids, our two kids, right? Which played a major. That's what was also scary.
Mhm.
Worrying about them and how they were going to settle in. My daughter was in middle school at the time. Um, my son, still young, he was 6. So, we had to worry about them, their adjustment, but we just had faith that everything would work out. And I'm a researcher. That's my thing as well.
Mhm.
So I can't even tell you what drew us for some. The vision was North Carolina.
Mhm.
It was North Carolina. We don't know a soul in North Carolina. Never knew anyone here. I get the researching. I'm looking at different places and school systems and counties and job opportunities. And and we end up making the move. Well, originally we were working with a realtor out here, who was doing FaceTime, like looking at houses for us through FaceTime and things of that nature. And me and Jenny, we would come down here every couple months, you know, stay for a weekend, look at different areas, and we both kind of just fell in love with this area that we're in. And you know, it was something that nobody really could see. Like,
Right.
a lot of people thought I was crazy for sure, you know, just for leaving my career in itself. But you know, it was something that we knew, we had faith that it was going to work out. So we came out here, and funny story how we landed in this exact house was we had a deposit down on a house prior, so we brought Stanley with us, you know, the best realtor in Connecticut.
Which happens to be my husband.
Yeah, City Realty. So we dragged Stanley with us. He came down for the trip. We were coming down for a long weekend for the home inspection. So we already had a deposit down on a house, which people still might not, you know, not fathom. Like, just that whole thing in itself is crazy. But we walked through the house. We're getting the home inspection done, and I was like, "No, this isn't it." And you know, Jenny's kind of like trying to make it work. Like, "Oh no, well, I mean, we could do this and we could do that." And I was like, "No, this isn't our house." And she was like, "Okay." So she was like, "We don't want it. We'll lose the deposit." So we're there for like another 3 days, and we're like, "All right, we gotta make it worth it. We gotta crunch in a couple houses." So coincidence, I don't know, but we ended up choosing 5 houses to look at. So we look at 5 houses. So throughout the day, we went, toured a couple houses. We saw this one, and it didn't click yet. But I was like, okay, you know, we were like, that's on the top of the list. So we went out to lunch. This Mexican restaurant. Me, Jenny, and Stanley. We sat there, kind of brainstormed, talked, and we're like, all right, we want to go back to this one. And it all just kind of came together. It was just the weirdest thing. We pull up to the house. The number of our house is 302. You know, that adds up to 5. So we walk through, and me and Jenny are just in this empty house, and I could just see Johan running around, and I could see Nunu in there, and I just seen how I seen a sectional there, and we're in the backyard, and I'm like, this is it. So you know, we end up putting in a bid for it. And the realtor calls us about an hour and a half later, and she's like, "Oh, you guys aren't going to believe this." And we're like, "What's up?" She goes, "The owners of the house are John and Jennifer." And we're like, no freaking way. It might have been Jonathan and Jennifer, but we were like, "This is nuts." And you know, that's as scary as it is. I'm a big believer that, you know, if you're putting in action behind your vision, if you have that faith, that I feel like God will give you signs, like you're on the right track. You know, so for us, that was confirmation enough. We were like, okay, this is where we're supposed to be. And our closing date was maybe mid-July. Realtor called us up and said, hey, you know, they're asking if we can push up the closing date. So we were like, sure, you know, have them pick whatever date they want. We're comfortable with whatever. And they ended up choosing June 26th, which is our wedding anniversary. So it's just crazy. And I mean, to get even crazier, our first set of neighbors that we met the first weekend were Mark and Sue. And people don't know, but you know, your parents' neighbor, long time neighbors, are named Mark and Sue. So
yeah.
But I mean, you know, that's just a little story, and how powerful faith can be, and just having a vision and seeing it through.
Exactly. And I think that's so important, because a lot of times that I talk about with my audience as well is, and my concept is more the universe. and learning how to trust your gut, because then it helps align you to the things that are supposed to be meant for you, right? And I think it's that exact concept that you have of five is like learning to have more faith in yourself and just going with the flow. A lot of times you're gonna be fearful. There's gonna be anxieties. There's gonna be all these things, and there's gonna be other people that are always gonna tell you, "No, don't do it. No, don't do it," because now they're projecting their fears onto you, and then it makes you second guess yourself.
That's a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna speak on that as well. It's tough because I fell victim of that a lot, like kind of
Mm-hmm.
looking for validation. I'd have these ideas, and I remember when we first thought about wanting to leave the state, and I would talk with co-workers about it, and you know, granted, I think they were coming from a place with good intent,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but I could have easily been swayed out of it.
Right.
I had a lot of old timers
Mm-hmm.
telling me, like, don't be stupid. You can't leave your career.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina isn't going anywhere. You can move there when you retire. This, and that. But our vision wasn't that. Our vision
Right.
wasn't to retire, move to North Carolina, and have our kids visit when
Right.
they wanted to. Our vision was to do it as a family and enjoy this challenge, this change together, this growth together. So, um, but I do think that's a big part of it. If you're not completely confident and maybe a little crazy, I think it
Mm-hmm.
does take a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't have that faith in yourself, then you'll easily be swayed out of anything.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, exactly. And I think that's why this movement that you have is so important, because it's like stories like that what you gave, that example was so important, because it just gives just a brief snippet of something, like one thing that can happen, that's saying just have faith in your vision, right? Another thing, there's so many other things that people could talk about and say, well, this is a time that I had faith in my vision and I went with it, right? And it was the best thing possible. And the reality is that sometimes things don't work out, right? You talked about how your journey of even coming up with the name itself, and how some of the things just didn't work out, right? Sometimes you might hit a couple stumbling blocks and obstacles, and something may not work out. But if you continue on pushing through, because you know that there's something there, maybe you haven't discovered it yet, right? Like it hasn't really come to you in that dream yet. It hasn't really stood out to you somewhere, right?
Mhm.
So keep going with it, because you never know where it's going to land, and it'll land somewhere that you're like, oh my gosh, this is it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's
So
that's huge. Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, even in the audience, for whoever is like listening to this live, what is something that, even for you, that you've had faith in your vision, even if no one else did, right? And realize it's your vision, it's not anybody else's, it's yours. So no one's ever going to see what you see that's going on in here, or even in here, or in your gut, right? So just allowing yourself and think about that and kind of reflect on that, because that's what this movement is about. It's just
Yeah,
faith.
it yeah, and it comes with like I said, that word is just so powerful. Just
Mhm.
that, just the faith aspect of it. But you can't expect people to see what you see for yourself.
Right.
You just can't. And it's not to fault like them.
Mhm.
It's yours for a reason.
Yeah.
You see it for a reason, and I mean, you can make it your job to show everyone later on.
Mhm.
Um, but that's how I look at everything I do. Even with this move, people thought it was crazy. People, you'll be back in a year, this and that. And it wasn't until we got down here where
Mhm.
family, friends, everyone's sort of like, wow, like I
Yeah.
see what you guys were seeing. I see what you
Yeah.
guys are talking about now. And yeah, I mean, you can't worry about what people say. You show them later on.
Yeah. And again, like so I'll take an example even from mine, right? Like going off this concept now that my house itself,
Yeah, yeah.
really old house. It's built in the 1800s. For some reason, I'm attracted to the houses that are just really old. Love colonial. Like I swear, I tell people all that. I swear, like I must have been like in a colonial house before, one of those Victorians with the big poofy dresses and stuff in my past life. But this house was built in 1897 or 1893, one of those. And when we got in, it was completely destroyed inside. Everything, like all of you guys. And for those who don't know, like John is my brother-in-law. So, so we're very close. And so everybody was like, Maddie, Stanley, what are you guys doing? Like my dad was,
I didn't see it. I
oh,
didn't see it.
you didn't get to see it.
No, I'm saying I didn't see the vision.
You didn't see it. I don't think anybody did.
Yeah.
My dad was like, tear it down. It's just tear it all down. Just start over. And I'm like, me and Stanley, like, no, but you don't see the living room, you don't see the dining room, you don't see how we can. Everything was very cookie cutter. I mean, there was an old stove there, an old stove, like was in the middle of what we have now as the kitchen, chimney going straight. It was crazy the way this house was designed. Again, it was designed from back in the day. It is one of those, again, the old houses that have like the servant stairs, as well as it had a butler's kitchen, it had master stairs, all that. And we were like, yeah, no, we're getting rid of all of this. Now this is our house and we're making it into our vision.
And think about like all the like speed bumps you ran into along the way, the process, the
Mhm.
permits, the like just so much crap, but you
The
never,
contractors.
yeah, you never swayed from it, like you never got discouraged, like, and I
Yeah.
mean it paid off. But that's a great example. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. And
I
and
mean,
it
talk about faith, like so
and
sometimes.
it took yeah, and it's definitely faith and having faith in your vision. Like we took videos of the whole entire house and we're just like, this is what we're gonna do here. This I even took a class in interior design to be able to say I'm designing my house like entirely basically from scratch, because it was on studs. All the walls, there was no walls, no electric, no water, no anything. Like literally we were kind of starting from scratch on the inside, so I can literally put my faith in this. But way prior to that, um my husband, I feel like he's a big manifester, and I do believe that we both are. Before
Yeah,
this, we had a multi-family house. So I had a duplex before, and honestly, we weren't even thinking about having a single family because we're like, oh, our kids like mid-range at this point, and we have other goals to invest and do all this other stuff. But we were like, but if we did have a single family house, here's what we would want. And everything that we listed, just driving one day, going, I don't even know where, we listed every single thing that we wanted in a house, including my wraparound front porch, and every single thing
checked every box.
we got in this house. And again, because it was down to the studs, then whatever was inside we were able to put in that house. So it was everything that we had asked for. It was 3 years. It took 3 years to manifest that. Like we called it out once. We were just like, yeah, that would be our vision one day, whenever that is. And it like appeared, and it's only 2 minutes away from the duplex that we had. So it wasn't even we had to go searching all over the globe. It was only up the street from where. So when you talk about having faith in your vision, and again, there is no timing. It just so happens that sometimes timing is perfect when it needs to be, and it was perfect when it needed to happen. We closed on our house literally a year after, actually a year of our first anniversary.
It's crazy, right? You know, on the subject of houses, um, I like FIYV played a major role in our first house.
Mm.
Um, so at the time, the situation, in the relationship. You know, me and Jenny had been together a couple of years, but weren't living together.
Mm-hmm.
And she got pregnant, and I think we started house shopping maybe 5-6 month mark.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Jenny just being more of a you know, wanting to take the safer route. She's like, let's get an apartment, you know. And I was like, no. I was like, we're getting a house. And she was like, I don't know. Like, I said, nope, we're getting a house. The vision I've always had. Crazy. Like, I've always knew I would have 2 kids, a boy and a girl.
Mm.
And for those who don't know, I have my daughter, but my stepdaughter, Jenelise. And it just worked out that I have a boy and a girl now. And so me and Stanley got together, best realtor in Connecticut. Say it again.
It's the plug.
But so me and Stanley, we started mapping things out. And you know, when I say like having motion behind your vision and like having action, anyone who knows me knows I hate overtime. I was one of those COs. I hated working overtime. Um, but I knew it was a sacrifice I was gonna have to make if I wanted our vision to come to life. So I was just working the overtime. Me and Stanley, I mean, you came to a couple showings with us. I mean, we might have looked at 35, 40 houses. I think I lost count after that. And I somewhat felt defeated. Like, I think Jenny at the time was like 7 months. And I was just like, oh, what is going on? But I was like, I know it's going to come through. It's going to happen. And this is no BS. I always envisioned living in a raised ranch 2-car garage. That's like a real big thing in like Windsor, Connecticut. That's what you see a lot. I always envisioned living in Windsor, having a raised ranch 2-car garage. And sure enough, I think it was a Saturday morning. We went back to the office that Stanley had at the time, and he's like, "All right, well, let's see what's on the market. Let's map out the next couple days." And I was like, "Cool." So boom, it's like this new house pops up, and I see it. No pictures. It was only one picture, the front of the house, and I was like, "Stanley, that's the house."
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "That's my house." And people who don't know Stanley is real, like, he's moving on. He's like, let's go look at it. But I'm like, oh, but we gotta, you know, get a show. And he's like, we'll drive by. I'm like, all right, cool. I think we had Gil with us. So we drive by this house. We pull into the driveway, and this man walks out, and he's like, you know, how can I help y'all? And Stanley, you know, he does his thing. So he's just like, yeah, you know, introduced himself, said what we were looking for. Like, we were just, you know, wanted to drive by the house. So the guy pretty much invites us, and he's like, you want to look at the house? Feel free. So while Gil and Stanley are kind of going through the house, me and the guy get into conversation, and he's like, oh, you know, so who's looking? So I said, you know, I'm looking right now for me and my family. You know, my wife is pregnant. He's like, oh, wow. He's like, yeah, you know, this would be a great house to start a family in. And he was like, you know, then he starts telling me that his mother was the one that built the house. You know, she was a little older. She was, you know, I want to say late 80s or whatnot. And they were starting to transition her out of the house on her own into a home or whatnot. And he pretty much right there was like, listen, go back to the office, put in a bid for asking. I want to sell you the house. Like, I want you to have the house. And I was like, no freaking way. And 30 days later, we were in the house. Like, but I mean, talk about faith. Yeah. I could have easily just kind of gave up and been like, you know what? I don't want to force anything. Let's just go get an apartment. Let's be safe about it.
Right.
No.
Or the guy wouldn't have been there, and you know, you would have gone through the other steps and stuff like that. And it's
to Stanley. That was Stanley's doing on like, let's get in the car right now. Let's go drive by.
Yeah, and that is so important, because again, I think at certain parts of time, like sometimes what people struggle and go through, they start losing faith, and they start losing faith in their vision. And the one thing is don't lose faith in it. And it can feel defeating. There's obstacles in life and challenges that is going to feel like defeat, but don't give up, because eventually, if you continue with that faith, it'll happen. Again, sometimes it's about timing, sometimes it's just maybe you're not in the right environment for it, right? You having, maybe you're forcing it. Don't force it. Allow yourself to kind of go with that flow, and it'll lead you to where you have to go. Sometimes you're just not sure to where to go, and you're just kind of forcing yourself in all these other directions, and that's what makes people feel like all out of whack, right?
Yeah.
So moving on, like, from there, where do you see this business going, this going for you, this movement?
I mean, honestly, the opportunities I feel like are endless with this message. I would love to sort of focus on the youth.
Mhm.
Um, from there, I mean, obviously, I want to be a big advocate with men's mental health. I'm big
Mhm.
on that, because that was also part of the process for me. I dealt with a lot of that,
Mhm.
with this whole process. Um, I mean, it's just so many directions I want to take it. I mean, I want people to tell their stories. I want to give people a platform to tell their stories. I mean, because, I think this could be implemented in any, all different types of ways. I mean, even so much as, someone wanting to get healthy, wanting to get in shape. I mean, you go to the gym, you know, day
Mhm.
one, you don't see results, but you have faith that if you continue to put in the work, the results are going to come.
Yeah.
So I feel like we all walk in faith, but I feel like it's about channeling it and being able to focus on one thing, focus on that one vision that gets us to that end goal. But I want to give people a platform to tell their stories. I got a lot of friends that are living by the message. They're big on it. They believe in it, and they've utilized it in their own lives. And I've seen how powerful it can be. So I just want to continue to grow it as much as I can.
Love it, love it. And again, that's so integral and so important. Again, that even myself, as my business is concerned, talk therapy, and even when I unapologetically, I do it with self-love movement for women. So, who knows if I can kind of get John to consult with us on some of these men groups, right? And I think it's just so important too, because we need that aspect of it as well. So to kind of start heading toward ending it off a little bit. So I see you got some of your products on. Can you share some of the things that you have in your movement?
Yeah, so I mean, I got a couple hats I could show.
Yeah.
You know, Originally I like went crazy and got all these shirts and colors, and then I had to kind of take a step back. I was kind of operating off other people's time, people telling
Mhm.
me you need to strike, you need to go, you need to, and
Mhm.
I wasn't ready at the time.
Yeah.
We spoke about timing, but this is gonna be my next launch, at least for five. So I got a couple different colorways. I got like a cream and green, the white and red that I'm currently wearing, a cream and navy blue,
Love it.
and then a black and white. And I mean, this logo just kind of represents like a calling. It's 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock a.m. You're calling right there, and your time to wake up, your wake up call. Time to move, time to act. Um, but that's one of the things I got going on, and also have my other business that I'm in the process of revamping and putting under the five umbrella.
Mhm.
But this was another situation in my life where I used five with Quasi caps, and it was a hat design that I made to utilize gibbets from Crocs, and they're removable and you could switch them out, things of that nature. So the patent is currently pending on that design,
Mhm.
but that's something that I'm working on revamping. And
You have some of the other colors too of those, because I know some of my audience who have kids and stuff like that would
so
probably like
right
love
now I have,
teams.
yeah, the green, the pink, the black. And like I said, these are just gibbets. They're removable. These are just some that I put on just to show an example. And Yeah, I think that's right now. That's like the only inventory I have left for the most part. Um, and weirdly, things been picking up with those as well. So,
It's nice.
I'm in.
I love it. Is there are can you give the audience where they can find both of your brands so they can follow you?
So, yep. So, Crazy Caps. I have an Instagram page and I have the link. I'm currently doing those. I'm selling those on Etsy
Mm,
because I felt like it'd be a more of a beneficial platform for me to use.
hmm.
And then five, I have the Instagram. Not much on there, but I'm working on changing that, getting a little more active. But yeah, and the site should be up sometime next week, where I'll put the hats up for sale. Um, the shirts, I'm currently going back and forth whether I want to make them or not to match the hats. So
Hmm.
I'm on the fence with it. Might not, but for sure the hats will be for sale soon.
Definitely. And definitely, follow along Five's journey because again, this is a movement. It's not just about products. The products kind of enhance the brand and as well helps you remember like what that means to you, right? Having faith in your vision. So when you're wearing it, you're like, this is for me and understanding like I want to remember this, right? But
Represent your journey.
exact represent your journey, right? So but definitely follow John and his journey with this business because I know that this is going to go far and it's going to go big, right? So and everybody has a vision. What's your vision? And that's what the end goal of this is to really understand from this live is what is your vision, understanding that and moving forward with it. John, is there any last words that you want to say to the audience before we leave?
Um, no, I mean, I guess I gotta end it with just have faith in your vision, follow. We got a lot of things in store, in the near future. So, hopefully, hopefully we get some more people on board with this movement.
I love it. I love it. Thank you all for joining us here today. John, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And this is Marianne Francis from Transforming Hearts PLLC.